It's Tom here with Digital Foundry, and today we're looking at the Final Fantasy XV Platinum demo. Released on PS4 and Xbox One's online stores, this sampler takes place in Noctis's mind, a bite-sized adventure entirely separate to the main game that works as a kind of tutorial. It's a surreal dream sequence that also guides us through the technology intended for the final product, a glimpse at the visual quality we can expect on each format. A lot has changed since the last demo too, the episode Duscae taster which came bundled with Type 0 last year. There we saw the Luminous Studio 1.5 engine put to work on gargantuan environments, perhaps the grandest vistas we've seen in a mainline Final Fantasy game to date. But this latest Platinum demo dials back that open world angle in favour of a more linear experience, going from the lush forest area at the start to a city concourse. Whether you're on PS4 or Xbox One, the lighting really impresses here. It's like a tech demo in this sense, and by jumping on these giant switches we can accelerate time and speed up the day-night cycle in any area. Once again, it shows the engine's physically based rendering backed by a superb material system that makes it all possible. It's fully dynamic and with a global illumination system too that makes the most of the shifting time of day and multiple weather states. Visually, the two versions are otherwise identical in lighting, texture maps and shadow quality, as you can see in our match footage here. In terms of effects though, there is one difference, and on Xbox One we see GPU accelerated particle effects are visibly reduced. It's obvious when jumping on switches like this, but curiously the two versions have matching effects in battle. Now, due to the randomized cloud simulation system Square-Enix is using here, we do get the occasional differences in hue on either side of the comparison. Backed by dynamic range lighting, it's still one of the most impressively lit games we've seen this generation. Between PS4 and Xbox One, the main dividing points are resolution and frame rate, the usual culprits. Speaking on resolution first, we now have a fully dynamic frame buffer in the Final Fantasy XV Platinum demo, rather than the fixed one used in episode Duscae. This means PS4 generally runs at 900p, while Xbox One sits at a lower 792p. However, depending on rendering load within a scene, PS4 can actually boost its resolution to a full 1080p, as shown during the less taxing mansion segment. On the other hand, when all effects are flying during a final boss battle, PS4 can drop to 882p. As a result, PS4's image quality is more variable than before. It can at times look far cleaner than it did in episode Duscae, but at other points it can be rougher. On balance, we're still typically looking at a 900p image, but there are exceptions on either side of that number. As for Xbox One, again it's a dynamic resolution, and at its highest we see it running at 1568 by 882. This is the sharpest the image ever gets, and Xbox One never hits a full 1080p like PS4 can, even when rendering load is forced to a minimum. But again, during the boss battle, Xbox One's resolution drops to 1360 by 768 at lowest, and almost 720p in certain cases. In other words, Xbox One always runs at a lower resolution than PS4, hitting lower lows and never managing to reach the same heights in pixel output. And unfortunately, image quality on both consoles suffers from the same aggressive in-house post-AA, causing the image to blur heavily regardless of the resolution being used. But overall, PS4's image is always clearer in direct comparison. Now, we had hoped this dynamic resolution setup would address the game's frame rate issues. On PS4 and Xbox One we saw sub 30 FPS dips aplenty in episode Duscae, and sadly that's still the case in this Platinum demo. Once again, PS4 leads the charge in matching stress tests, typically by a margin of 5 frames per second, but it's clear both have tremendous drops in frame rate around the built-up forest scene, where close-ups of Noctis really shows the engine struggling. The alpha blending on hair is an obvious issue, causing drops on the opening cutscene. This is an engine with a long legacy on last gen, going back to the launch of PS3, and so it's hard to put full blame on the hardware at hand here. There's a sense that despite its virtues in lighting, it's still a very poorly optimized engine for PS4 and Xbox One. And the bad news continues. While PS4 has a performance lead overall, the dips are still rough, and each console can hit around 15 frames per second during the final boss. Added to that, PS4 has its own unique problem in frame pacing, just as with Bloodborne, causing frames to render in an out of order sequence. Essentially, at a 30 FPS average, Sony's machine still produces a stuttering sensation, with several duplicate frames being output in a row, followed by an equal number of unique ones. And as you can see, the resulting frame time graph on the left shows PS4 fluctuating between 16 and 50 milliseconds, which isn't good. Surprisingly, this isn't an issue at all on Xbox One, and when it hits 30 FPS, the ordering of frames is correct. It translates to a smoother experience when it holds at that number, but of course PS4 has the frame rate advantage in stress tests, though neither really impresses at all in performance, even with the dynamic resolution in place. We really hope this area is improved by launch, because right now the game doesn't feel as polished as it should. With 6 months to go until Final Fantasy XV's launch, there's still some time to tinker, but given we've seen little change since episode Duskay, it is a concern.
Wow. I'm not afraid.
So that about wraps it up. We hope you enjoyed this video. Throw us a like or subscribe if you got something out of it, and until next time, thanks for watching.
Gotcha!